Hello dear students, good evening to one and all. Students, I welcome you back once again to YEP Master. See students, we are discussing biology in human welfare, human health and diseases in other words. As per NCERT, its title is Human Health and Diseases, and you know one more title we have, that is Biology in Human Welfare students. See, in previous class what we have seen? In previous class we have seen what is parasitism, what is parasite, what is host, types of parasites we have seen students, different kinds of parasites we have seen, ectoparasites, endoparasites, then hyperparasite, facultative parasite, obligate parasites, monogenetic, digenetic, all these different kinds of parasites we have seen. And apart from that, hosts also we have seen. What is host? You know, primary host, secondary host. Primary host is also called definitive host, secondary host is also called intermediate host. Then reservoir host we have seen students, and apart from that, vectors. In diseases, generally in spreading diseases, vectors play an important role, and you know what exactly vectors are. You know, types of vectors we have seen, mechanical vector, biological vector, what is the difference between these two, and examples we have seen students. And in today's session what we are going to talk about, you see, parasitic adaptations. So see student, this is common roundworm. So in order to live inside the body of its host, obviously parasites are going to show some changes in their morphology, anatomy and physiology, and these changes enable these parasites to survive or thrive well in the body of their host. And you know, these changes in the anatomy, morphology, anatomy and physiology of the parasite which enable the parasite to survive successfully in their host is known as what? Parasitic adaptation students, you need to remember. See, that is what I have shown. You can clearly see over here, right? So that roundworm, how roundworms can survive simply in the lumen of intestine. So in order to survive in the lumen of intestine, roundworm will be showing so many adaptations, so many changes in its morphology, anatomy and physiology students, so that it can successfully live in the body of its host. And you know, these changes are called what? Parasitic adaptation students, right? And see, parasites have evolved, right, have developed so many special adaptations to meet the requirements of, right student, right, and requirements, and those requirements, which help parasites have evolved so many special adaptations. Those adaptations enable the parasites to live successfully in their host students, right. So that is what parasitic adaptations, you need to remember just definition. So simplest definition I would like to share with you: changes in the morphological, anatomical and physiological changes, anatomical changes in the body of the parasites which enable the parasite to live successfully in their host body are called parasitic adaptation students. Parasites show so many adaptations. We will talk those adaptations in detail students. You see here, right, so for what purpose parasites will be showing adaptations? So that is $1,000,000 question students. So all you need to remember, since parasites live inside, some parasites live outside the body, but most of the parasites, so here our focus will be on endoparasites. Most of the parasites, right, they will be living inside the body of their host. So inside, body of hosts, the conditions will not be similar, right, which you will come across outside the body. So in order to survive in those typical conditions, those complicated, what you can say, conditions which are present in the inside the body of the host organism, parasites show what? Some adaptations, and they are called what? Parasitic adaptations. So adaptations for what purposes? Let us talk about those things in detail. First, you see, organs for attachment students. Parasites which are living inside the body of their host, they have what? They have developed, they have evolved some special structures, right students, for attaching the host tissues, right. So when parasites attach to the host tissue by special structures or with the help of special structures, that parasite will not be expelled from the body of the host, right. So generally what happens, if parasite is not attached to the tissue firmly, so then there is a possibility parasite will be expelled from the body of the host, right. So in order to avoid that, in order to avoid the expulsion of the parasite from the body of the host, parasites show some special structures or organs for its attachment to the host tissue, or with the help of special structures parasites attaches with what, tissues of the host, and thus parasite will survive inside the body of the host, and its expulsion will be avoided, student, you need to remember. So what kind of structures parasites have evolved in order to get attached with the tissues of their host, and let us see those structures. See students, with the help of, right, so this image I would like to make you understand, you see what kind of structures you can find in the, what kind of structures parasites have evolved, right, in order to get attached with what, host tissues. See students, suckers, are you able to see suckers here? You can see clearly where suckers are. So this is sucker, student, right. So this is one sucker, this is second one, this is third one, this is fourth one, right. So how many suckers you can see here? 4 suckers are there. So with the help of sucker, so this is what Taenia solium, students. So other organisms are also having what, suckers, but in case of Taenia solium you will come across what, 4 suckers. With the help of these 4 suckers, and these 4 suckers are born on what, structure called scolex. On scolex you will come across what, 4 suckers. With the help of these 4 suckers, Taenia solium gets attached with the wall of intestine, student, right. So this is very, very important, you need to remember, and this Taenia solium is going to cause a disease called teniasis, right. So generally this disease can be seen in people, those who eat what you can say, pork, student, right. So meat of pig. So again one more species is there, Taenia saginata, student, right. So Taenia saginata causes what, teniasis, again in people those who eat what, beef, right. So beef tapeworm, Taenia saginata is beef tapeworm, and this Taenia solium is what, pork tapeworm, students. So at this point of time what is important, so parasites, endoparasites have evolved, have developed what, some organs, right, to get attached with the host tissues, and these organs enable these parasites to survive successfully inside the host body, and with the help of these special structures, right, student, right, parasite gets attached with the tissue, and thereby its expulsion is avoided, student, right. So what are those organs? Suckers we have seen, students. Apart from suckers, you see one more structure you can see which is born on that scolex, that is rostellum, student, right. So suckers, rostellum, and again you can see what, hooks, students, right. So hooks are arranged in 2 rows here, you can clearly see hooks. Are you able to see, students, right. So hooks. So with the help of these 3 structures, right, so wherever I have encircled, you see rostellum, hooks, students, right, and suckers. So these 3 structures play an important role, right, or help the parasite to get attached with what, host tissue, student, right. So all these you need to remember under what, organs for attachment. So parasites have evolved organs for attachment. What are those organs for attachment? You see suckers are there, hooks are there, rostellum. So these kind of structures, right, help the parasite to get attached with the host tissue, that's it. And see, these structures can be seen in what, parasites like, endoparasites like Taenia solium, student, and Taenia solium causes a disease called teniasis. So let us see what are other structures, right, what are other adaptations. So first adaptation we have seen organs for attachment, student, right. Now you see, in some parasites, not of course in all parasites, some parasites have what, protective covering, right, protective covering on their body. So that protective covering is also called what, tegument, student. So tegument is also called what, cuticle here. So different names are there. So all you need to remember, so parasites which are adapted to live inside the body of their host, so in order to protect themselves from what, digestive enzymes or digestive enzymes of host, so their body is covered with what, their body is covered with tough thick cuticle, student, right, and that tough thick cuticle protect the parasite from digestive enzyme, students. So it's a very simple, you need to remember. So where you can find this tough cuticle, you see, student, I have mentioned Ascaris lumbricoides, right. So in Ascaris lumbricoides, again in Taenia solium also you will come across what, tegument, student, right. It's a very simple. So in Ascaris lumbricoides, if you see, this is common roundworm. So Ascaris lumbricoides is intestinal parasite student. It lives in the small intestine, in the lumen of small intestine, and you know in the lumen of small intestine, so pancreatic juice, right, students, you know, intestinal juice, all these juices will be mixed with what food. So in all these juices, what, you know, different kinds of enzymes will be there, students. So in order to protect itself from the different kinds of enzymes of the host, right, so this parasite's body is covered with what, thick cuticle, student, right. So that is what you need to remember. So that is why, so this structure again you need to remember. So this also comes under what, so body of the parasite is covered with thick protective covering, that is cuticle or tegument, student. So this is one more adaptation exhibited by the endoparasites. I hope you understood. It is very simple. You can see here, so this is what parasite, endoparasite, nothing but what this roundworm, you can say, student. So its body is covered with what, cuticle, right, and this cuticle provides protection from digestive enzymes of the host, student. Let us see some other adaptations exhibited by the parasites. Anti-enzyme, students, right. So when parasites are living inside the body of their host, so as I told you, and that mostly, and you know, this anti-enzymes are generally produced by what? Anti-enzymes are generally produced by parasites, which are generally, right, live inside the lumen of what, small intestine, because in small intestine only what happens, so in different kinds of digestive juices are released, and in, you know, digestive juices, what enzymes will be there, students, right. So in order to neutralize those enzymes, so some parasites are very smart. So what they do, they release some chemicals, and you know, those chemicals released by parasites neutralize the enzymes of the host, right. So thus these parasites are protected, right, these parasites are protected. Some parasites, what they, the parasites which cannot produce anti-enzymes, what they do, their body is simply covered with what, cuticle, student, right, or a protective what, tegument, you can see. And you know, some parasites, what they do, they neutralize the enzymes of the host by releasing what, some chemicals, and those chemicals released by the parasites to neutralize the enzymes of the host are called what, anti-enzymes. Why? Because these anti-enzymes will be against what, enzymes. So these chemicals are, anti-enzymes are always released by what, some parasites, right, you need to remember. And enzymes of host, enzymes are released by what, digestive glands of host, and those enzymes will be neutralized by what, some chemicals produced by parasites. And since these chemicals are neutralizing the enzymes of the host, they are called anti-enzyme, students. That's all, finish. It's very simple. So what are the parasites that produce what, anti-enzymes? See, students, Taenia solium, it's very simple. So this is Taenia solium, you can see, and you know, it may grow up to 1 meter. Can you imagine, students? So Taenia solium can grow up to 1 meter. 1 meter means you can imagine 3 feet, and you know, it's a small thread like animal. It belongs to Platyhelminthes, you have already studied. So that is why I told you, when you have finished what, animal kingdom perfectly, you can easily, very easily understand what this chapter, student, right. It's very simple and quite interesting as well. So this parasite, intestinal parasite, student, Taenia solium portaeform, lives inside the small intestine, right. So with the help of what, its suckers, you know, you can't see here in this, previously I have shown, that is scolex, head like structure. In that scolex, what, rostellum, hooks, and what, suckers will be there. With the help of these structures, it gets attached with the wall of small intestine, student, right, and its entire body will be there in the lumen of small intestine, you see. And this parasite is going to produce what, chemical, and those chemicals are going to neutralize the enzymes of the host, and those are nothing but what, anti-enzyme, students. I hope you enjoyed. It's very simple. So anti-enzymes are produced by what, Taenia solium, students, in order to neutralize the enzymes of the host. That's all. And you know, now the enzymes are neutralized, completely neutralized by what, anti-enzymes of the parasite. So therefore those enzymes are not going to cause any kind of damage to the parasite, student, right, and thus it can survive successfully there in the lumen of small intestine. So that is the you know, you see this kind of what you can say, these are the adaptations shown by what, parasites. So in order to successfully live inside the body of the host student, right. So let us talk about one more adaptation, student. You see, anaerobic respiration. This is very important. So generally what happens, suppose if organism is living in the, outside the body of the host, so organism is getting what? Organism will be in contact with what? Atmosphere, student, right. So there will be no problem of what? Oxygen. And since organisms are living inside the body of the host, so do you think inside the body of the host generally, you know, oxygen will be available? So generally in tissues you won't see what? Oxygen, student, right. So there will be no oxygen, of course, inside the body, inside the tissues, right. You need to understand. So this oxygen is there in dissolved state in blood, that is different thing. So generally, you know, much free oxygen will not be there for the parasites inside the body of the host, students, right. So in due course of time, during evolution, parasites have evolved anaerobic mode of respiration, students. What? Anaerobic mode of respiration, you need to remember. Some parasites, you see, some parasites, right, so they are completely what you can say anaerobe, students, right, and they are called what? Obligatory anaerobes, you need to remember. Means they, you know, they do not depend upon oxygen, student, right. So they are not going to depend upon what? Oxygen for their survival. And when an organism is not depending upon oxygen for its survival, right, so it is completely in absence of oxygen. If it lives successfully, if it lives in absence of what? Oxygen, such organisms are called what? Obligatory anaerobe, students, right. So here some parasites are what? Obligatory anaerobes. Means what? In absence of oxygen also they can survive, student, right. So this enables, you know, these parasites, obligatory anaerobes, to live successfully in the host body, students, right. Let us have a look, you know, what kind of parasites are obligatory anaerobes. Entamoeba histolytica, students, and Taenia solium. This most important, Entamoeba histolytica, causes amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery, students, right. So you can see here I have shown Entamoeba histolytica. In future we are going to see in detail, right, its structure and its life cycle in detail, students, right. So this is what Entamoeba histolytica, students, right. So this is somewhat light diagram, right, it is very simple but no problem. So this is what? Entamoeba histolytica. In Entamoeba histolytica you can find what? Nucleus will be there, students, cartwheel like nucleus, and you know, food vacuole you can find, in which you can find what? RBC, students, right. So this Entamoeba histolytica generally lives where? Entamoeba histolytica you know, lives in the submucosa, students. You need to remember what? Submucosa. You can submucosa and mucosa, submucosa and mucosa of what? Submucosa and mucosa of colon, student, right, means large intestine. So this is the location of the Entamoeba histolytica, students, right. So you know, in the wall of alimentary canal there are 4 layers. Outermost layer of the wall of alimentary canal is called what? Serosa, students. So below serosa you will come across what? Muscularis, you need to remember. So below muscularis submucosa will be there, and innermost layer of the wall of what you can say alimentary canal or gut is mucosa. So this parasite lives in the mucosa. Sometimes it may go deep into what? Submucosa, student, right. Means there, do you think in mucosa, in the wall of alimentary canal, in the lumen there will be oxygen, but in the wall of alimentary canal, in the wall of large intestine, right, student, do you think there will be free oxygen? No. So therefore, so this parasite has evolved, right, to live without oxygen, student, right. So you know, if parasite or if organism, any organism, not only parasite, if any organism lives without oxygen, so such organisms are called what? Obligatory anaerobes. So here this parasite is evolved to live without what? Oxygen. So therefore, you know, this Entamoeba histolytica and this, you know, Taenia solium, this can live without what? Oxygen, students, right. So therefore these parasites are called obligatory anaerobes. This is very, very important. See, students, obligatory, in whenever you will come across what? Obligatory in biology, so immediately, so you have to think of what? One more word, that is facultative, student, right, facultative. Obligatory means compulsorily they are anaerobes, right. So they can live without oxygen. If they live without oxygen, they are called what? And you know, if oxygen is available, they are not going to make use of oxygen, student, right. So they are completely live without oxygen. If it is available, even then they are not going to make use of oxygen, student, right. So such organisms are called obligatory anaerobes. There are some parasite, students, right. So intestinal parasite, I must say. So they are facultative anaerobes. They are facultative anaerobes. What does it mean? See, whenever oxygen is available, they are going to make use of that oxygen, student. So in presence of oxygen, or whenever oxygen is available, they, you know, they are what? Aerobe. They behave like what? Aerobic organisms, students, you can say aerobic organisms, right. Means what? Means they can make use of what? Oxygen. If oxygen is not available, they behave like anaerobic organisms, students, right. So if oxygen is available, aerobic respiration they perform. If oxygen is not available, no problem, they perform anaerobic respiration. So such parasites are called facultative anaerobe, students, right. It is very, very important, you need to remember. And facultative parasite and facultative anaerobe, Ascaris lumbricoides, students. Ascaris lumbricoides, what happens? You see, this is Ascaris lumbricoides, common roundworm. Ascaris lumbricoides, common roundworm. This is also intestinal parasite, student. So if oxygen is available, it can make use of it, you know, it performs aerobic respiration, right. If oxygen is not available, it performs anaerobic respiration, means in presence of oxygen it survives, right. So without oxygen also it survives. If oxygen is available, then it respires aerobically. So such organisms are called facultative aerobes, right, student, right, you need to remember, right. So if organism lives without oxygen, if oxygen is available, it is not going to make use of that oxygen. So such organisms are called obligatory anaerobes, students, right. For obligatory anaerobes, we have Entamoeba histolytica and Taenia solium, and for facultative anaerobes, we have what? Ascaris lumbricoides, students, right. So this is one more adaptation you can see in parasite, students, right. This adaptation also enable the parasite to live successfully in the body of their host student, right. Next you see one more adaptation, remarkable, very important, this is again very, very important, student, right. Remarkable reproductive ability, right, student, right. So generally what happens, if you see the structure of the parasite, student, right. So their morphology and anatomical features, they are greatly simplified, they are, you know, very much simplified. So you cannot see what some, you know, specialized structures in their, you know, morphology and anatomy, students, right. So means their morphological structures and anatomical structures are, you know, greatly simplified, they are very much reduced, students, right. And parasites, you know, entire focus will be on what? Its reproduction, students, right. So parasites generally, almost all parasites are having what? Tremendous capacity of reproduction, students, right. So that you need to remember. So that I would like to explain you with the help of what examples, so that you can remember. So you know, what is the reproductive ability, right. So what kind of reproductive power parasites have, students. So you know, you have to remember two examples for this remarkable reproductive ability of the parasite. One is Ascaris lumbricoides, students, right. See, I have shown here Ascaris, this is male Ascaris, student, right. So every time I am showing what? Images. So in future we are going to talk about all these things. This is what, student? Female Ascaris lumbricoides, what? Female. So here sexual dimorphism is perfectly seen, male is smaller, female is larger, student, right, no problem. So female Ascaris lumbricoides, so these two live in the lumen of small intestine, students, right. So after copulation, what happens? There will be, you know, transfer of sperms by sperm is going, you know, sperms are transferred by male into the body of the female, student, right. See, after fertilization, what happens? Female releases what? Eggs, students, right. Fertilized eggs will be laid by the female. So every day female Ascaris is going to lay 2 lakh eggs, students. So that is what I have mentioned. You see, Ascaris, right, female Ascaris lays how many? 2 lakhs eggs per day, students. So you can imagine 2 lakhs means, you know, very large number it is. So female Ascaris lays every day how many fertilized eggs? 2 lakhs fertilized eggs are laid by female Ascaris per day. So that is the, obviously this is what tremendous capacity of reproduction, students, right. So appreciable capacity of reproduction, remarkable capacity of reproduction, student, right. So this is one just example so that you can remember. So what kind of reproductive ability parasites are having, right, students, right. So parasites focus will be on what? Just reproduction, students, right. Why? In parasites life so many hurdles will be there, students. Nobody is going to welcome parasites, right. So generally what happens, nobody is going to welcome parasite, students. That parasite has to struggle like anything to survive in the body of the host, right. Host body will be responding, host body will be trying to eliminate what? Parasite, students, right. So in order to overcome all the hurdles in its life cycle, right, parasites show so many adaptations, students, and so this remarkable reproductive ability is one of the important adaptations exhibited by the parasite, student, right. And see, I hope you understood. So with the help of this example, simple example, I wanted to make you understand what kind of reproductive ability parasites are having. One more example, students, you see, this is what Taenia solium, students. In the body of Taenia solium, approximately you will come across what? 1000 proglottid, students. How many? Just approximate number I am providing, 1000 proglottid. Proglottid means you see segments, right. Of course these are not true segmentation is not present here in this. Pseudo segmentation is present, students. What? Pseudo segmentation. Why pseudo? We will discuss subsequently. You might have studied in what? Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes organisms exhibit what? Pseudo segmentation. Why we are calling pseudo segmentation? You see, new segments will be generated. New segments, you see here I have mentioned, new segments will be formed where? In the anterior region, students, right. So that is the reason why I am I have shown here young segments, right, immature segments you can call them. And in the middle of the body you can find what? Mature segments. In mature segments what? You can find what? Reproductive organs. Taenia solium is hermaphrodite, bisexual organism, right. Most of the Platyhelminthes organisms, almost all, right, Platyhelminthes organisms are what? Hermaphrodites, bisexual. So here in mature segments, students, you see nearly 300-400 in the center. You can find what? In the middle of the body, mature segments. In mature segments you will come across what? Both testis and ovary, students, right. So all you need to remember, it's very simple. And last in the body, in the posterior end, last 300 segments, right, student, right, 300 to 400 last segments, they are gravid proglottids. So in those proglottids you can find uterus which is filled with what? Fertilized eggs, students, right. So all these things are not necessary for you to remember. So what is exactly important for you? So that is what I have mentioned. If you see this organism, so in Ascaris, female Ascaris lays nearly 2 lakhs eggs per day. That is the remarkable ability of reproduction, student, right. One more I would like to share with you, one more example, so that you can enjoy the beauty of the concept, student. You can enjoy the beauty of the subject over here, right. So in its body, in the Taenia solium body, you will come across how many, right. So this number, round figure I have given, right. So here I have mentioned 700 to 900 proglottids, but up to 1000 will be there, you need to remember. So you can imagine, so 1000 proglottids are there in the body of the Taenia solium, and you see, again for your kind information, in gravid proglottids, right. So in gravid proglottids means posterior most proglottids which are having what? Branched uterus, which consists of what? Fertilized egg, students, right. From each proglottid you see how many proglottids are there? 1000, right, student, right. So from each proglottid how many eggs will be produced? 35,000 eggs will be produced. You can imagine then 1000 into 35, dear students, you see, right. So that is the obviously that is remarkable ability of the reproduction or not? Yes, that is remarkable ability of reproduction, students. So I hope you understood what exactly what is remarkable ability of the reproduction, right, students, right. Parasites show remarkable ability of reproduction, right. So with the help of these two examples we have understood, right, what kind of caliber they are having as far as reproduction is concerned, student, right. I hope you understood. That's all. It's very simple, student. Let us see some other what adaptation, students. So sixth adaptation, you see I have mentioned here, simply headings you need to remember. complicated life cycle, students. So parasites life cycle is not so simple. Parasite will be showing very complex life cycle, students, right. What does it mean exactly? See, I have shown here, you can see clearly, it's very simple. So generally what happens in parasite life, so parasite is not going to complete, some parasites can complete their life cycle only in one host, that is different thing, they are monogenetic parasites. But generally some parasite, students, show very much complicated life cycle. For example, so here you can see Fasciola hepatica. So this is what Fasciola liver fluke, student, right. So this is what liver fluke, you need to remember liver fluke, Fasciola hepatica, student, right. So just you need to remember name, Fasciola hepatica is commonly known as what, sheep liver fluke, students, or simply liver fluke, you can say. This Fasciola hepatica completes its life cycle in 2 hosts, sometimes 3 will be there, students, right. So 2 hosts, what are those 2 hosts? You see, primary host is sheep, student, you know what exactly primary host is, definitive host is, and secondary host is snail. So are you able to see, this is what sheep primary host, student, right. So primary host, and this is snail, right, and this snail is what, secondary host, student, right, you can see. So when an organism is completing its life cycle in 2 hosts, if organism is completing, if parasite is completing its life cycle in 1 host, and one parasite is completing its life cycle in 2 hosts, so which one is complicated, first one or second one? Obviously second one, the parasite which is completing its life cycle in 2 hosts, that is complicated than a parasite which is completing its life cycle in 1 host, right. So here we are talking about what, complicated life cycle, right, the parasites which show complicated life cycle, we are talking about it. So for instance, for example, we have taken what, liver fluke, student, that is Fasciola hepatica. Fasciola hepatica causes what, liver rot disease, liver, it damages liver, so therefore it is called what, liver rot disease in sheeps, right, student, right, you need to remember, that's all. And this Fasciola hepatica completes its life cycle in 2 hosts, primary host is sheep and secondary host is what, snail. It's very simple, means its life cycle is complicated. This is one aspect, it completes its life cycle in 2 hosts, this is one aspect as far as complicated life cycle is concerned. And second aspect of this complicated life cycle is very interesting, students, you see. So Fasciola is not only having 2 hosts in its life cycle, but when Fasciola stages are living in the what you can say, secondary host snail, right. So otherwise directly you can say, in the life cycle of Fasciola you will come across 2 hosts, one aspect, and second aspect is so many developing stages will be there, so many larval stages will be there in the life cycle of Fasciola hepatica, student, right. You can clearly see, I have shown here, you see Fasciola hepatica, student, right. So this is one larval stage called Miracidium, what, Miracidium, one larval stage, students, you need to remember, it's very simple. Here I would like to write what, Miracidium. So this is what, Miracidium, all you need to remember, Miracidium is one larval stage in the life cycle of Plasmodium, right. Miracidium transforms into what, Sporocyst, student, right. So this is one more Sporocyst, right. Sporocyst transforms into what, Rhodia, student, right, Rhodia. So this is these are what, larval stages, different kinds of larval stages which can be seen in the life cycle of, right, this liver fluke. So Miracidium transforms into Sporocyst, Sporocyst transforms into what, Rhodia, Rhodia transforms into what, students, you see Cercaria, what, Cercaria, and Cercaria larva transforms into what, Metacercaria, students, what, Metacercaria. Now you tell, so how many larval stages you can see in the life cycle of the Fasciola hepatica? 5 larval stages, 5 developing stages, right, you can see in the life cycle of what, this Fasciola hepatica, students. Now you tell, so what you have seen, Fasciola is not going to show simple life cycle. So Fasciola life cycle is very much complicated. Why its life cycle is very much complicated? Because Fasciola completes its life cycle in 2 hosts, one aspect, and second aspect, in the life cycle of Fasciola there are so many developing stages, students, or there are so many larval stages, right. What are those larval stages? Miracidium, Sporocyst, Rhodia, Cercaria, Metacercaria. So if you have missed Platyhelminthes salient features, right, in detail in animal kingdom, so you will be benefited from this information, students. You should have studied all these things where, in Platyhelminthes phylum, student, right, of animal kingdom. So if you have missed there, you can make use of this information, right students. See, there is a connection between what, animal kingdom and this chapter students. It's very simple. So animal kingdom's connection will be there in almost every chapter students, you need to remember, right. So with this we have finished what, this complicated life cycle also we have finished. You see, Miracidium, this is Miracidium transforms into what, Sporocyst transforms into what, Radia transformed into what, Cercaria is transformed into what, Metacercaria student, you see, right, that's all. So complicated life cycle we have seen. Now see student, one more adaptation you can see. So parasites are very what you can say, intelligent kind of organisms, because you know it's a for them it's a do or die, situation. If they don't change themselves, they will be eliminated, right. So change is inevitable, nothing is permanent in this world except change is inevitable students, right. So these parasites also time to time they undergo what, they show changes, right, and those changes enable these parasites to survive successfully, right, in their host body. If they, right, don't show changes in their morphology, anatomy and physiology, they will be perished, they will be eliminated student, right. You see, one more adaptation shown by the parasite is formation of cyst student, right, encystation you can say in other words, right. So in future you will come across this word encystation, right, encystation or encystment also you can use what word, encystment, encystation, right student, right. So simple terms, formation of cyst. You know, some parasites what they do in order to tide over, in order to overcome unfavorable conditions, what they do, they are going to produce what, thick tough covering, right, around their body, and that is called cyst, right. So example, you see, Entamoeba histolytica produces cyst around its body, right student, right, and that is called cystic form of the Entamoeba histolytica. So inside cyst I have shown here one nucleus student, are you able to see one nucleus? And you know, in this cystic form only this nucleus undergo what, division, we will discuss subsequently in Entamoeba life cycle detail. You see, this is what, one more cyst student, right. So this is one more cyst. This time in this cyst what, two nuclei are formed, right. I mean this nucleus undergoes what, mitosis, without undergoing cytoplasmic division does not occur, but nucleus undergoes what, division. So this is called what, binucleate cyst. And then these two nuclei undergo what, one more mitotic division student, and you know, thus 4 nuclei will be formed, and this is called what, tetranucleate cyst student, right, which is infective stage to human being. We will discuss all these things subsequently in detail, right. So mentally just I am preparing you what we are going to see in future. So at this point of time this is very simple, all you need to remember, heading, formation of cyst, some parasites such as Entamoeba histolytica, in order to tide over, in order to overcome from unfavorable conditions, right student, right. So they form what, cyst around their body, and this formation of cyst around their body is called what, encystation or encystment, right, and this cyst protect them from what, desiccation, right student, right. I hope you understood, it's a very simple. So formation of cyst is one more adaptation exhibited by what, parasite students, right. This is one more. You see one more, some parasites what they do, as I have shown, this is over. So this is Plasmodium vivax students, and this is HIV virus diagram, right. So some parasite students what they do, they, in order to avoid production of vaccines, right student, you see, instead of, they don't know whether you know, vaccines will be produced by human being to eliminate them, that is not the thing. But you know, some parasites what they do, whenever they attack the host, so they time to time what they do, they change the surface antigens, right. So their surface antigens on their body, some antigens will be there students, right. So they frequently change what, their surface antigens, right, and thereby, so we human being are unable to produce what, vaccines against them. So such parasites are called what, smart parasite student, right. So we don't have vaccine against what, malaria. Why? Because malaria parasite is going to frequently change its surface antigen. So that is why we cannot, right, we are unable to produce what, vaccine against malaria, you need to remember. And you see, there is no vaccine against what, HIV also. Why? HIV also changes what, its surface antigens from time to time student, right. So therefore Again we cannot produce what? Vaccine against what? HIV also. So vaccines are not produced against what? Plasmodium vivax and HIV. What is the reason? Because these parasites are very smart parasites. They frequently change what? Their surface antigen, students, right? And thus these parasites avoid what? Production of vaccine against them. So these are adaptations. So means what? They are showing some changes in their body, and thereby they are living successfully in the body of their host, right? So these are adaptations shown by the parasite, student, right? So with this we have finished what? Parasitic adaptation, students. Simple small article we have finished, and I hope you enjoyed. So many are there, so many. We can talk hours as far as these parasitic adaptations are concerned, students, right? It's very simple. Again, few adaptations I would like to share with you. Internal parasites, again you see, they generally they are having what? Poorly developed sense organs. I mean, sense organs are poorly developed in endoparasites. Why? Because they are living inside the body of their host, and when they are living inside the body of the host, so body conditions, right? Body conditions means temperature, pH, all these will be stable in the body of host. So they need not to read what? These body conditions of their host, because they are more or less constant, right, student, right? So therefore sense organs are poorly developed, right, are reduced, you can say, in endoparasite, student, right? And again you see, in endoparasite locomotor structures are reduced, because they need not to go on excursion in search of food. So therefore locomotor structures are greatly reduced, students, you need to remember, right? So these are some more adaptations. So many will be there, no problem. So these are the only adaptations which are mentioned in your syllabus, students. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you understood, right? It's very simple. Let us talk about one more article, student. You see, effects of parasites. Once we finish these things, right, we will talk about what? Health and types of diseases and all those things, directly NCERT topic, students, right? So these are just bit extra, so but useful, you need to remember, right? So effects of parasites, students, right? See, effects of parasites we are going to see. Generally what happens? So whenever parasites attack their host, so do you think they are going to help the host? No, they are not going to help the host. They are going to damage, they are going to cause damage to the host, you remember, right, student, right? So and they cause what? Various kinds of diseases in the various kinds of parasites. When they attack what? Their host, they cause what? Different kinds of diseases, students, right? And those parasites will be competing for what? Competing for the nutrients, students, right? So they do not allow nutrients to reach what? Body cells, and thereby our body will become weak, student, right? So these are the effects of parasites. So whenever they attack what? Host body, students, and host will become what? Weak, and if they are, I mean, if the diseases are not treated, the host may even die. So that you need to remember, students. That is what I have mentioned. You see, in general, parasites cause what? Weakening of the body of their host, student, right? Causing the deprivation of nutrients, right, student, right? Fluids and metabolites, as the parasites compete with their host for the same, right, student, right? You need to remember. They may cause what? Pathological effects in their hosts. So parasites may cause what? Pathological effects, right? So directly you can say parasites cause so many different kinds of what? You can say pathological effects in their host, right, student, right? So what are the effects caused by parasites in their host? We have to see, students, right? So here we are going to talk about some other not only human host, but some other animals also will be acting as hosts for different kinds of parasite, students. So those things also we are going to take into account, we are going to take into consideration, students, right, in this article. You see, first one, parasitic castration, student, right? So this word you need to remember, it's very simple, parasitic castration. So what is parasitic castration? What does it mean? See, some parasites, whenever they attack their host, students, whenever they infect their host, so they cause degeneration of host gonad, students, right, and they make the host, they make their host sterile, and this phenomenon is called what? Parasitic castration. It's very simple. Parasitic castration, parasitic means associated with what you can say parasites, castration means, right, making sterile, right, student, right? So whenever parasites attacks, whenever there are some parasites, for example Sacculina, root-headed barnacle student, right. So Sacculina is a root-headed barnacle. This is crustacean student, right. You need to remember arthropodon, and it attacks on what? Crabs. So crab is also crustacean, crab is also arthropodon. So this Sacculina root-headed barnacle attacks on what? Crab student, and whenever this barnacle attacks on crab, so this barnacle Sacculina damages or degenerates what? Crab's gonad, and thereby crab will become sterile, and this phenomenon is called what, students? Parasitic castration. I hope you understood. So you see how parasite is causing the damage of the degeneration of the host's gonad, students, right. Not all, but some parasites can cause the degeneration of the gonads of their host, and this phenomenon is called parasitic castration, and parasitic castration is exhibited by Sacculina root-headed barnacle, students, you need to remember, right. So root-headed barnacle Sacculina is crustacean, and its host, that is crab, Carcinus manus, its scientific name is what? Carcinus manus, students, right. Crab scientific name is, so Carcinus manus host, and Sacculina root-headed barnacle is parasite. So right, so this parasite attacks on what? Crab, and whenever this Sacculina attacks on crab, so crab's gonads are degenerated and crab will become sterile, student, right, and this phenomenon is called what? Parasitic castration, right. So this is one effect. You can see I have shown here, you see, student, it is very simple. This is what? Are you able to see this? I would like to demarcate. So this red encircled portion is what? Sacculina, root-headed barnacle, and this entire structure is what? Crab, right. So this Sacculina attacked on the right, so abdomen of what? This crab, student, right. So when it attacks on the crab, so it causes what? Degeneration of gonads in the crab, and crab will become sterile, and this phenomenon is called what, student? Parasitic castration. You see one more effect, student, you can clearly see, neoplasia. So what is neoplasia, right? So some parasites cause abnormal growth of the host cells in tissue to form new structures, students, right. You see I have shown here. So these are what? Normal cells, 1, 2, 3 I have shown. You see neoplasia. In neoplasia what happened? You see abnormal and excessive growth of cells, abnormal and excessive growth of cells, student, right. So that is what neoplasia, you need to remember. So what is neoplasia? Abnormal growth of the host cells. Are you able to see? You see this is normal cell, and here this is what? Abnormal growth of the cell, student, right. So some parasites, so whenever they infect their host, what they do? They cause abnormal growth of host cells, right, in a tissue, student, and to form what? New structures. So this phenomenon is called what? Neoplasia, students, right. And see, neoplasia leads to what? Neoplasia leads to cancer. Neoplasia leads to cancer, students. So this is very, very important, you need to remember, right. Example, some viruses, oncogenic viruses, you can say, right. So cancer causing viruses, it's very simple, students. So neoplasia is another what? Effect shown by the parasites. You see one more effect is there, students, gigantism. What? Gigantism. So I have shown image previously, we have seen while discussing what? Complex life cycle. So this image you can make use of what? This to study gigantism as well. So there are some parasite, students, whenever they attack their host, so they cause abnormal growth of the body of their host, student, right. So whenever parasite attacks its host, so host's body abnormally increases in size, right. So and this phenomenon is called what? Gigantism. It's very simple. So this word gigantism you will come across once again in future. I mean, you have already studied, I think, this word gigantism. So in future you are going to see, otherwise you might have seen some, you might have heard. Growth hormone, whenever growth hormone is released in excess quantity, right, during childhood, so that leads to what? That leads to over height of a individual, right. So that is known as what? Gigantism. So excessive secretion of growth hormone causes what? Gigantism, you need to remember, student, right. It's important. So there we will discuss in endocrinology. So here what is gigantism? So whenever parasites attack what? Their host, they cause abnormal growth in the size of the body of their host, right, and this is called what? Gigantism. So for gigantism we have one example, students, Fasciola hepatica. You see Fasciola hepatica. Fasciola hepatica lives in the, it lives in what? Two hosts. One is what you can say, definitive host is the sheep and intermediate host is what? Snail. So whenever Fasciola hepatica's larval stages enter the body of what? Snail, so they cause abnormal increase in the size of the body of snail, student, right, and this is an example for what? Gigantism, you need to remember. So that is what I have mentioned. Some parasites cause abnormal increase in the size of their host. This effect is called what? Gigantism. You see larval stages of the Fasciola hepatica, when they enter the body of the snail, so snail body size increases abnormally, and this is what? Gigantism, students. So I hope you understood. It's very simple. Next you see hyperplasia, student, right. So one more effect shown by the parasite is what? Hyperplasia. What is exactly hyperplasia, right, student, right? It's very simple. So some parasites, what they do, whenever parasites infect the host, they cause increase in the number of cells, right. So not increase in the size of the body, right. So it is not going to cause what? Increase in the size of the body, but some parasites, whenever they attack their right host, so inside the body of host they cause increase in the number of cells, students, right, and this effect is called what? Hyperplasia, you need to remember. In hyperplasia what happens? In neoplasia what happens? There will be abnormal increase in the size of the cells in a tissue, and that leads to what? Formation of new structures. That also leads to what? Cancer. That is what we have seen in neoplasia. In gigantism what happens? Body of the host increases because of what? Parasitic stages in its body, right. So whenever parasites attack the host, size of the body of host increases. That is what? Gigantism. You see in hyperplasia what happens? Some parasites, whenever attack their host, they cause what? They cause increase in the number of cells, students, and this increase in the number of cells because of infection of parasites, right, students, in their host is called what? Hyperplasia. So we have one beautiful classical example for hyperplasia. So this is what? Fasciola hepatica, and Fasciola hepatica lives inside what? Bile duct, student, right, and it causes what? A liver rot disease, So Fasciola hepatica lives in the bile duct of sheep, right, it causes what? Abnormal increase in the number of cells, student, right, and this effect is called what? Hyperplasia. So Fasciola hepatica causes hyperplasia, you need to remember. What is hyperplasia? Hyperplasia, so abnormal increase in the number of cells is called what? Hyperplasia. See, students, one more effect, hypertrophy. Hyperplasia we have seen, hypertrophy, right, it's very important. So in previous, number of cells are increased, here what happens? Size of the cell increases, right. So there are some parasite, students, right. So whenever they attack the cells, so they cause increase in the increase in the volume or size of the cells, students, right, infected cells. This is important, host cell size increases. So you can simply remember these are what? RBC, students. So all these are what? RBCs, but this RBC you see, so inside this RBC you can find what? Plasmodium, students, right. So Plasmodium stages are there, Plasmodium vivax malarial parasite is there inside what? This RBC. So therefore RBC volume has increased several folds, right. So size of the RBC has increased. So whenever parasite attacks what? Cells of the host, and it causes abnormal increase in the volume or size of the host cell, that is called what? Hypertrophy, students, you need to remember. So we have classical example for hypertrophy. So Plasmodium vivax attacks on what? Liver cells. It also attacks on what? RBCs, as I have shown. Plasmodium vivax attacked what? This RBC, and it caused abnormal increase in the size of RBC, students, and that is called what? Hypertrophy. So simple, students, very simple. Next you see, now you see general effect of the parasites. If you see, student, parasites cause what? Variety of diseases. So whenever you think of what effects of the parasites in their host, so immediately what should strike in your mind? Obviously parasites cause the diseases, that's all. So parasites cause variety of diseases students in their host. We have few classical examples, right, and we have some more diseases students which we are going to discuss in detail in subsequent classes, right. So few diseases I would like to share with you caused by the parasites. You see, sixth effect, you see, most important, parasites cause what? Various kinds of diseases. You see, first one, African sleeping sickness student, right, African sleeping sickness. This disease is caused by Trypanosoma gambiense students. What? Trypanosoma gambiense, it is a protozoan parasite, flagellate parasite. It causes what? African sleeping sickness students. So this can be seen mostly in Africa. So therefore its name is African sleeping sickness. So name of the parasite is Trypanosoma gambiense student, right. You see one more disease, Delhi boils, Tashkent ulcer or oriental sores student, right. So this is caused by what? Leishmania tropica. Leishmania tropica is again what? Protozoan student, right. It is important again. So you need to remember this is again flagellate. So Leishmania donovani causes what? Oriental sores or Tashkent ulcer or Delhi boil students, Leishmania tropica. Trypanosoma gambiense causes what? African sleeping sickness. And one more disease is, you see, Kala Azar. This is also called dum-dum fever, right, visceral leishmaniasis student, right. So this is caused by Leishmania donovani. You see, Leishmania donovani, Leishmania tropica causes what? Delhi boils, oriental sores, whereas Leishmania donovani causes what? Visceral leishmaniasis, right student, right, Kala Azar, dum-dum fever. Malaria is caused by what? Plasmodium student. So we are going to discuss in detail malarial parasite life cycle, Plasmodium vivax life cycle. You see, elephantiasis student. So filariasis, this is caused by Wuchereria bancrofti. So this also we have in our syllabus, right, its life cycle, pathogenicity we will discuss subsequently in detail students. Students, in today's session we have seen parasitic adaptations and effects of parasites in detail we have seen students. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you for watching AppMaster. Keep watching AppMaster. Thank you.